What's up, guys? Our wrestling podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious, along with Jess the Total Package, Craig the British Bulldog, and the Nature Boy Joe, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Today's topic, greatest Raw moments for audio fans. Give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel. On social media, can you be a darling and give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019, or on Facebook/X at Our Wrestling Podcast. I think you said X is Our Wrestling Podcast, Jess. I'll have to fix that. Jess, we had quite the Raw moment this week with The Rock finally turning up after so many years and announcing he might want to go eat at the head of the table. That was a pretty big moment. I don't know if that's what sparked this for you to bring this topic on this week, but I'm pretty excited about doing it. What say you?
That's exactly why.
There you go, baby.
I was for audio fans, it's just SoundCloud, Spotify. I realized too, and by the way, we at the recording of this anyway. I'm not sure when I'm going to air this, but we're recording this on January the 5th, the 31-year anniversary. They celebrated the 30-year anniversary last January in 2023 of Raw. Raw's been on the air for 31 years. 31! It debuted in 1993. And it's just been chugging along. It's gone through many different variations, many different opening theme songs.
Right.
Originally, they started out in the Manhattan Center, and they were doing that for a while. And we're like, just kidding. We're going to travel and do stuff everywhere. And then they went other places. And so, like, Monday Night Raw has produced a lot of really good moments. Really shit moments, too.
Do you remember the story of the Manhattan Center getting the rings up those elevators to try to build them?
Yeah, they had to bring the pieces of the ring up fucking elevators, like freight elevators.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah.
Oh, how far
so
they've
Vince
come.
comes up, of course, Vince comes up with this beautiful idea. And don't get me wrong, Vince would absolutely load all that shit himself to prove everybody else wrong. But I mean, like, yeah, he'd be like, oh, you do it! And then he'll do it, and they'll be like, oh, we guess we have to do it now. Like, so that's what Vince did. He's always said, I'll never have you do anything that I wouldn't do myself. So if anybody bitched, Vince would be like, and he would just fucking put a ring on his back and go up the elevator, and do it. So, yeah, they started out from the Manhattan Center, which was this building in downtown New York, right? Manhattan? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to, geographically, I'm dumb right now. So it's a small fucking ridiculous building where it's kind of like an amphitheater almost. Like, it was just really not like... it was not an
Madison
arena.
Square Garden. It was like across the street or like down the street from Madison Square Garden or something.
Yeah,
like that.
it was like down in a bad neighborhood.
It's on like a city. It's just like a city block, like a little ballroom. It's just like a nondescript building. I've never been in it. I was like, holy shit, that's the Manhattan Center.
Yeah.
31 years later, networks are paying millions and millions and millions of dollars to fight for Raw to be on their channel, which is fucking crazy. It's insane. So there's been tons of moments. So I want to go around the room and challenge you guys to come up with one of your greatest Raw moments that you've ever seen. There's been a lot of them. There's a lot of shitty ones too, but there's been a lot of really great Raw moments.
What do you mean? Everything's good on Raw. What are you talking about?
Everything's fine.
3 hours of gold for 30 years.
30 hours. It started out as an hour show, by the way. Remember when Raw first debuted?
The early years, it was just an hour, right?
It was 1 hour, yeah. Nitro, same thing. When Nitro first started, it was 1 hour, and then
so it was 1 hour. So it was really like 42 minutes of viewing, and probably 15 of that was interviewing and commenting.
I don't know if you guys have read this rumor, but Raw is going to go to 7 hours starting in this year. So.
It makes sense.
Well, good. Good. I mean,
it's
going to start on Monday night and go into Tuesday morning, depending on where you live. So everything's fine.
100%. I'll start off because I think mine's going to be different. If you guys want.
I don't want to hear your opinion, but go ahead.
No one better steal my ideas. I have 5.
That's why.
That's all I got.
Right. I only have 3, so I might have to. If you do something really hustle bustle here, but my first one is August 20th of 2001. It's my favorite of the 3, so I want to get it out there. Jess already knows what it is. If it's August 20th, 2001, you guys remember what was going on? What feud was going on?
Oh, it's your favorite little wrestler.
It's my favorite little wrestler. Yeah. Kurt Angle decides to come on out with the against Stone Cold Steve Austin and the McMahon regime. There's like 30 people in the ring with this big ass milk truck and throw cartons of milk and spray them with an actual milk truck. It is one of my favorite moments, and Angle douses himself in milk at the end of the whole show. Everyone's slipping and sliding over all this pasteurized milk. There's even like a moment, I can't remember if you said JR was like, not JR, I'm sorry, Jerry Lawler says he's bringing out the big stuff, the homogenized milk, and he starts laughing. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Lawler, he had his moments when he picked him. For me, that
and
was...
JR did the famous thing. He's like, it's Milk Mania running wild. Like, that was Jim Ross's call.
Right. And it's like, I think they knew it was coming, but they had some things set to say. But everything kind of fell into place there. And Angle's really on top of the world feuding with Austin. And how cool is that?
So it's the only reason why a lot of people don't talk about this. I mean, they talk about the Milkomania incident, but
sure.
It's because the invasion angle sucked so bad that in 2001, like after they bought WCW, but like the Austin and Angle feud was fucking gold, and all their matches really were good, and this segment was fun and great, and like it's such an underrated feud because people are like, the invasion sucked, and it did. But the stuff that we got kind of along the way, I was like, that was pretty fucking awesome. Like that feud, because those two guys, like, and Austin being injured, he's like, I'm not going to let this guy outperform me, which Angle was a goddamn machine, like at that time. So it's like Austin stepped it up, and then the matches they would have would be super physical and great. But this, like Dave said, this moment, which is absolutely one of the best Raw moments ever, kicked off that feud. It was awesome.
It was so creative, and obviously a spin off of like what Austin had already done, and it was like, but it just made it was just a lot of fun. It was definitely on my list. Absolutely fantastic moment.
You want to pick one, Joe, before wanting to say? Oh, you want to?
Sure. I'll. Mine. I don't remember the date, and this isn't necessarily like one of my favorites. It's just one that. I mean, I think it's probably on the in the top 5 moments of a lot of people.
We'll help you find it, Joe, when you talk about it too. We'll help you.
It. I think it led to the kind of myth that anything could happen on Raw, that it was Raw, that anything could happen at a given moment.
Sure.
And that's the 1-2-3 Kid beating Razor Ramon.
Oh,
yeah,
fuck you.
Yeah.
God damn it.
May 17th, 1993.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it was probably on all of our lists.
I actually didn't have that one. I thought somebody would take it though. I think that's why I didn't talk about it.
No, it is. It is one of the. It's the earliest Raw moment. I mean, besides one I'm not going to name because it's on my list. It was in the early months of Raw. This was 1993, like Craig said, in May. So Raw debuted in January of 93. So like it had only been around for like 4.5 months at this point. And like it shocked everybody. And it made the 1-2-3 Kid. It made Sean Waltman. And just for Vince to fight, and what a departure, right? Because he was getting away from the big steroid guys and the big muscular guys, and he was just trying whatever. And really, like, you could say what you want about the Clique eventually, and they would be very toxic, and Scott Hall could be a huge dick in the back a lot. But for Scott Hall to be like, this guy can beat me, I see the value in like this guy beating me and creating this moment, and then this big fucking muscular Scott Hall just being pissed off, and what the fuck, and it helped Razor transition into a face, and like so many things were from this moment. This was what a great moment it was. Like,
Razor missing. Boy, he really came in with that elbow. And I think Razor's dazed. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3. What is this? He got him. He got him. Can't believe he beat Razor Ramon. He beat Razor Ramon. He beat Razor Ramon. Razor Ramon got beat. He got beat. He was cool. What is this? He beat Razor Ramon. It's all right. He got beat.
It really was.
Because especially up to that point, like, we were so used to like Wrestling Challenge and Superstars of Wrestling, where it was, the superstar beat the prelim, and that was it. And for the most part, like, we didn't. 1-2-3 Kid was a prelim, like, or if he wasn't a prelim, he was Jim Powers or Paul.
Yeah, he was a prelim, Joe. Like, you're right, 1,000%, and that's also plays into this angle because it was genius. When they first brought him in, It was. Bruce said it was to bring him in as enhancement talent, but they knew a little bit before, we need to do this moment with this guy. And that's when Hall's like, let's do it. I want that guy to do it with. And so they purposely kept him losing up until that point. So when it happened, it was like, this guy's been on a losing streak. There's no way he's going to beat Razor Ramon. And then Razor beat the shit out of him the entire match, except for that moonsault where he caught him, where Ramon missed and hit his head on the pole. And then did the backflip, 1, 2, 3. And the legit, first of all, Vince, besides pay-per-views, wasn't used to running live weekly shows. So to watch that audience a New York audience get stunned like that, they were like, "What?" And if you watch people in the crowd, people's hands are on their heads. You talk about, Undertaker streak losing. This was like a smaller version of that, where people were like, why did he beat him? Like, people were like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, and it was really cool.
I'll do one which for me was huge. It kind of almost makes me think of the Attitude Era kind of started and me really committing again to wrestling. It was a big deal for me, this one, because it was probably teased for a couple weeks. I don't remember how it actually had happened, but this was a genuinely shocking moment for all of us. And it was January 19th, 1998. It was when Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mike Tyson kind of...
so good.
Yeah. He ruined Vince McMahon's Mike Tyson. You
ruined
it.
Don't you mess this up for me. Yeah.
And it was just kind of so awesome, almost kind of the beginning of the whole thing there.
So here's to you.
With the gravitas of finally getting a kind of a talent like Mike Tyson again and getting back to relevancy.
That's lovely.
It was just really cool. And Mike Tyson, of course, drops and said things he probably shouldn't have said at the end of it. But it was a really kind of dramatic, really cool moment to see them.
What did he say at the end, Craig? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. You have to kind of.
Craig, can you tell us what he said though? I really think you should
like Booker T at the end of interview.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, that was worse. I think.
Well, maybe
I don't think you'll ever see it again, but I remember it was live.
He's a rattlesnake, Jay. You said it.
But it was that's my moment to me.
That's I always forget about, that's a great one.
So I just realized right now that I don't have the date for this, but I'm going to alter my first choice because it's going to piggyback off Craig. One of my moments that I put down was Austin versus Vince McMahon with one hand tied behind Austin's back. That was the first night that the WWF broke the 83-week streak. They won the Monday Night War.
Was it really?
Yeah, they won the ratings. And I remember as a fan watching that, I was flipping back and forth, and the way they said it at the beginning was Vince challenged Austin, and Austin fell for it, and he was like, but you have to do it with one hand. So they did that at the beginning of the show and drug you out all the way to the end. And so everybody stayed tuned in the entire Raw, and that was the first Raw that ever beat Nitro for the first time in 83 weeks. And that was Austin versus McMahon. And it didn't even end up happening. They fucking get in there, they put Austin's hand behind his back. It's a whole entire episode draw out, and then Mick Foley came down as Dude Love and turned heel and attacked Austin, and they went on the program because Austin said, like, we knew Vince wasn't going to wrestle me because he's not a wrestler. So, like, he's like, I need to be separated from him. And that's when Vince made the decision of, like, you have to chase me. And, like, that...
April 13th, 98.
There you go. So it was right after, because the You Ruined It moment was right before WrestleMania 14, where Tyson was special guest referee. So after that, 2 weeks after WrestleMania, I'm almost positive, was when they did the whole, fine, you want to face me, Austin? You have to do it with one hand tied behind your back. And that was a whole thing. And I remember flipping back and forth going like, this is good. And Raw had been getting close to Nitro, like leading up to that, with the Tyson stuff, with Austin winning the world title. It was getting closer every week. Raw was inching up there, getting so close to Nitro. And this was the week that it finally got pushed over. Thank you, Dave, for that date. Because I I put dates by all my other ones, and I didn't on this one. So when Craig said that, I got excited, and I was like, I got to pick that one because that piggybacks off what Craig said perfectly. That whole stretch,
Well done.
That whole 1 month stretch was so important in Raw history because it enabled them to finally overtake Nitro, who had been beating the shit out of them since like '96.
Just one thing. Just one thing. You said you could beat Vince McMahon with one arm tied behind your back.
That's right. That's
Did
right. He
you
did
say that?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah.
Now let's see if you're a man of your word.
And so it was like this weight that was finally lifted. And us as wrestling fans are like, this is fucking great. Like, both promotions now are putting out mainstream quality shit, and Tyson got them there. And yeah, that's my first pick. So I'm going to piggyback off Craig's and kind of go like a couple weeks later. And it was Austin versus McMahon, Monday Night Raw.
That was a lot of fun.
I remember, still as a fan of this day, I was like, this is special. Like, this is a really good Raw. And then when the ratings came out the next day, it was like, holy shit, they did it. And then it was on for the next year. They were battling back and forth. Like, it was great. Yeah. It was a great time to be a fan, to be honest.
I'm going to have a totally different spin here. I don't think people would pick this one, but we'll see. We're going to go to April 7th, 2014, which there's more than one thing on this particular episode, so I won't give it up in case someone has it. But this is the final TV appearance from the Ultimate Warrior when he comes out and he's wearing his makeshift mask, and he's shaking the ring. And when he shook it, I honestly thought something was wrong. Then when he shook it, I could tell he's shaking. And his speech, as amazing as it was pretty incredible. The way he was talking, you could tell. I think he felt in his heart, terrible thing to say, that he had more to give, and he was going to start working the back because he was signing that Legends contract, and he literally died the next day. And
to preface that, Dave, he was put in the Hall of Fame like 3 days. This was WrestleMania weekend, so he was put in the Hall of Fame like 3 days earlier. He came out and waved everybody at WrestleMania 30, right? Was it 30? What year was that again?
2014.
Yeah, WrestleMania 30. So he came out there and waved everybody, and then he went out and did that speech on Raw. And the next morning, we all read that he just collapsed in the parking lot and died.
He collapsed and died of a heart attack.
That weekend killed him. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, literally. Like I think he felt he had more to give and more plans, and his body, and someone else said, "Nope, you're done. This is it."
So much so that you will tell your stories and you will make them legends as well. I am Ultimate Warrior. You are the Ultimate Warrior fans. And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever.
The Ultimate Warrior.
You've made friends, and you've made good with all your demons, and it's over. And which is really kind of a shame. I almost don't know. Maybe it's a shame, and maybe it was the best thing. I mean, he left two little girls and a wife that loved him, and it's a really horrible story. But I also feel like maybe it could have been really, really bad if he had been on Legends contract.
To the moment that you're that speech on Raw, the moment that you're submitting right now, meant a lot to fans. Listen, like, we've all had opinions about the Warrior, and we could say whatever we want, but like, I can't count how many people I still talk to this day that were like, dude, Warrior was my guy. Like, he got put over Hogan. He beat Hogan, and that was like a big deal. And you can say what you want about how his reign went afterwards or whatever, but everybody still remembers him beating Hogan. And like, there's a lot of wrestlers. Daniel Bryan, the Ultimate Warrior, got Daniel Bryan into. Daniel Bryan was an Ultimate Warrior fan, and he's like, dude, I remember like clear as day. He was like my guy. And
thanks, Warrior.
There's a lot of people that like that you would not even guess that were like, dude, Warrior was my guy. Like, he inspired me. He got me going. So for him to come back to the company after they put out a DVD called The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, Vince went out of his way to fuck that guy over. And I'm not saying the Warrior didn't do his fair share to create that conflict, but at the same time, like, he finally got to come back. He finally got to make amends. He got he even said in his speech, his daughters never knew that Warrior. never knew that guy
Yeah.
because when they were born, he was way out of the business. And so like he got to bring them. And I remember him looking down at them going, hey, didn't Dad tell you that when WWF puts on a show, they put on a big deal? Look at this, And it's amazing like that he got to do that. So you can say what you want about him. But I remember I was touched by that too, going, you know what? He's a human being and he has a wife and 2 daughters. And like they got to see him in a light, like, because his wife met him after his wrestling career too. So it's like they never got to see what the Ultimate Warrior was all about. He just got to tell them or show them videos or whatever. But to see them invited back to the Hall of Fame, imagine how his daughter's heads must have been spinning. All that attention and oh my dad is going. He got to go out in front of 80,000 people or whatever and wave to him, and they were in the crowd and watched him at WrestleMania.
And they knew him. They still knew. They're still cheering him like crazy.
Yeah.
And their kids like, what is this? I think the best way to describe it, you could describe like the crap that went on the back and whatever. But he was a beacon. He was a beacon for people that like, wow, I want to do this, or wow, I want to watch this. I want to be a part of this. An absolute beacon that would just pierce through any.
Well, Vince created him.
Like I said,
he was.
Yeah, you got to.
You know what I mean? So for the machine to turn on him the way it did, and again, Warrior wasn't innocent, but at the same time, like it's just kind of crazy when it all came back. It was squashed, and like people. Yep. All of them were children, like watching him coming out on that stage because he hadn't been.
The ability for him to cut through everything, cut through the bullshit, cut through all that to still be a beacon of light for people to watch wrestling. Even with, like you said, I don't want to say a lack of talent, definitely a lack of not wanting to take a bump, but to be able to be that way. Joe and I joke about it a little bit, before we record.
What date was that? You said that was 2014. The Warriors' last appearance on WWF programming was 1996. So he was gone that entire time from 96, all the legal battles, all the Fuck You Warrior DVDs, all the trash or whatever, and then he finally came back in 2014 to kind of get in the Hall of Fame. That's a long time.
Wow.
Like, and people still remember
18 years? 18 years.
And people still remembered him. And like, so, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't want to go last because I think this one may not. I kind of want to choose something that I don't think anyone else is going to choose, and I don't want to end the episode with this. But I'm going to do ECW invades Monday Night Raw on February the 24th, 1997.
The real invasion.
WCW was beating the shit out of them. And in February of 97, the NWO was the hottest thing in wrestling. And WCW was firmly in number one. They'd been winning the ratings war for like 9 months at this point or something. Like they were killing them. And WWF was desperate. And I remember watching this going, holy shit. Like, little did we know that Vince was giving money to Paul Heyman to borrow his talent the whole time. Like, so it's like, ECW started out to be this renegade promotion, and then Vince on the down low is like, I'm getting my ass beat a little bit, like in 95 and 96. Like,
let me finance you a little bit.
Well, he wasn't getting his ass beat thoroughly in 95, 96, but he's like, WCW's coming on strong or whatever. He's like, let me give you some money every year, and I'm going to borrow some people here and there. And Heyman's like, sounds good. I can use all the fucking money I can get. So they gave Paul Heyman a certain annual amount every year to divvy out. I'm sure he didn't spend it on that, but they gave it to him to help his company. And so in 97 when they finally decided it, and that's the famous episode where Sabu jumped off the Raw symbol. Remember in the original Raws we had the RAW like on the thing. Sabu jumps off that like onto, I don't remember who he was feuding with at the point. It might have been Taz. And he jumped on that. RVD wrestled on Raw and became Mr. Monday Night at that point, like, and it was a whole thing, and like Jerry Lawler did an ECW pay-per-view where he was friends with RVD and all that stuff, and they did cross promotion. So like this was to see Vince finally be like, I got nothing, we're getting pounded, what do I need to do? And like people were just like, try to stimulate. This is when they all get desperate, by the way, and they go to the dirt sheet audiences. They go to the little hardcore, oh, I'm cool, right? Like all of them shit on dirt sheets now, but I'm like, you all have been to a point where you've been so desperate. You're like, what kind? What kind of audience do they have? I want that audience. Like, you know what I mean? And ECW was this small niche, like, like dirt sheet favorited audience, that like just loved him. I need to be cool somehow. Like, and so Vince was struggling. He was trying to figure out. And dare I say that doing that and watching ECW at that point helped Vince, because late in 97 is when Austin started to click.
Has been accepted. ECW is in the house.
Paulie. What did I tell you, McMahon, huh? bunch of morons. And the King's answer has been challenged. There's no telling what we're going to see in the house. That's Paulie in there, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have all kind of action, no doubt about that.
We want something different.
Yeah.
We don't want bubblegum. We don't want this. We want hardcore. Like,
Yeah.
And the NWO angle was so big, and this even before Hall and Nash left in '96, those two and Shawn were like, Vince, you have to like watch this. Like you have to like it's edgy, it's different. Like the fans don't want the Jose Lotharios in your corner. They don't want that shit. They want something different. So like to Joe's point, when Diesel became a tweener, it started working, and then he went to WCW shortly after, and they reaped the benefits of that. But it's like. This finally Vince going like, okay, I've lost enough. What do I got to do? And they're like, let ECW come in. Let's just do this thing. What do we have to lose? What's going? What's it going to hurt? And then one day on Raw, they just fucking show up, and it was to hype ECW's first ever pay-per-view, and it was also to I believe that was '97, their first pay-per-view. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was '97. So. And it was to hype their first ever pay-per-view, and it was just to get. Legal? I think Barely Legal was their first one. I want to say that was their first one. And it was to help hype that. And Lawler was like on their second or third ever pay-per-view where he took on Tommy Dreamer. So they borrowed Lawler, and they borrowed a bunch of other people like to do ECW TV and shit like that. So their relationship was going on way before anybody ever knew anything. So that's my submission here. Sorry, like I went too long.
And what was the date on that one, Jess?
That one was February the 24th, 1997.
Got it. Wow.
Impressive.
Because I'll just go because just to segue off of that, you want to talk about.
What are we doing here? I did that to you last round. You do not do that fucking to me.
A scant 3 years later, 3 years and 1 month later, almost to the day. Actually, 4 years later because I can't count. The moment that my final moment is.
I know you're gonna say.
The only moment that I remember that was simulcast on both networks at that time. But it's you want to talk about a federation that was struggling in '97 and doing partnerships with ECW and floundering and not knowing what to do.
Don't they? It's fucking insane.
And they get the last word, and Shane McMahon purchases WCW from under Vince McMahon, and they do that simulcast at the end, and he's in that turtleneck, and there's a McMahon on the contract, but it's not Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
It says Shane McMahon.
I remember we were flipping back and forth,
How could
back
the invasion
and forth. I was like,
fucking fail? With that kind of lead-in, how the fuck could they fail?
I don't know.
It was on both fucking
the ECW
channels.
invasion was better. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Both channels. I was like, what the hell is happening? Like this, it was crazy to be happening at this time. Like he really bought it, and they really had it going on both networks.
Well, Dad, that's just the opportunity that I was looking for. Because, Dad, the deal is finalized with WCW. And the name on the contract does say McMahon. However, the contract reads Shane McMahon.
Oh my God! I don't believe it!
That's right. I now own WCW.
As a fan, I remember being fatigued and finally looking at it and going, God, it's over. And I didn't know how bad it was going to be after. And I don't mean that in the sense that the Ruthless Aggression area was good wrestling-wise, but having only one wrestling promotion was so bad for the industry for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, true.
And, like, it's crazy, like, to me. And what Craig said, I remember we all watched that going, what the fuck are we witnessing? Like, we just... Yeah. Like, they just finally failed. Like, they just finally...
Was it one of them Panama Beach things? Were they, like...
Yes, they were outdoor. It was Panama Beach in Florida. It was awful. They couldn't even sell it. There was probably 3,000 fans there, maybe 4,000. Like, it was just awful. WCW just died. They were dead. Like, and it was like... And Bischoff was going to buy it, and he actually had an investor, and they were going to buy WCW. He said, cool. They're like, we're going to do all this final paperwork. And Bischoff's like, that's awesome. I'm going to go on vacation while you guys do that. So he left, shut his phone off, fucking didn't even check anybody. When he comes back, he's like, so what are we going to do? When are we going to sign this? He's like, you don't know? And he's like, no, I've been literally shut off to the world for, I don't know how long he was gone for. And they're like, no, like, while you were gone, the AOL, because they merged with Turner at that point,
Yeah,
AOL
they said no
canceled
TV deal.
wrestling and took them off the network. They have no deal. And Bischoff's like, it's
Yeah.
dead then.
Well, then it's worthless.
And he's like, yeah,
worthless
we're done.
to him.
Bischoff didn't even stop to go, let's buy the library. He didn't. Vince stepped in. He's like, how much you want?
Or even like let me buy it, and of course they could have found another network.
Well, the problem is no, because I guess while Bischoff's gone, they shopped it really quick, going, if we buy this, what are you going to do? They're like, fuck you, fuck you. Wrestling had fatigued the cable systems by that point. So, like, nobody wanted it. So, like, they were just like, no, this is worthless. Like, we thought we could buy it with a spot on TNT, and now we don't. And Bischoff's like, it's dead. But nobody thought to buy the library. So Vince is like, how much you want for the library? They're like, $3.5 million. He's like, are you I have a sock. And he, here you go.
Yeah.
And fucking,
I have it
under my
in the cushions of my couch. Hold on.
That's crazy. Like, that was in one of Linda's old purses. So I have it here, and there you go. And they're like, cool. So, and how much, just on the creation of the Death of WCW DVD, he made the money on what he fucking purchased all the whole library for. And then he creates a network, and then he fucking makes more DVDs. Now he can show Sting. Now he can show all of the WCW shit. So they started making documentaries of all these wrestlers, and they were able to include all of their WCW shit. He made all that money back on DVD sales, on fucking DVD sales. Like,
I know that I know we've said this a million times, but Vince has spent more money on NBA than he did on WCW.
Vince spent more money on taxes than he has on the purchase of WWE. Like,
that's a good one.
Crazy.
All right, Joe, send us home.
Okay, well, I had a couple left. I hope this isn't too obvious, but I feel like it was a big deal. I don't necessarily like.
Say the one I got written down. Say it.
Yeah, I think we all had on those.
Yes.
Pipe bomb?
Yes. Yes.
Which one?
Pipe bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't have that one.
There was nothing more important than that, Joe. You're absolutely right. Seriously. There's.
I mean, I had several other that I thought were a big deal, but like I feel like pipe bomb was like. I feel like it ushered in a new era of wrestling. It was like.
I would agree.
All of a sudden, everything that you read on the dirt sheets, and everything that was like kayfabe. I mean, kayfabe had been dead for a long time, but like. You actually saw like the death of kayfabe and the dirt sheets and everything like kind of like cross each other all in one moment, and where you're like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it was even more so than Vince saying Brett screwed Brett, and like we find you to be more intelligent than that or whatever. It was. I mean, I took it a step further and was like, no. Like, this is like, you want to know? I'm gonna peel every layer of the curtain back and expose it. And we're
breaking
like,
the fourth wall. Hi, Mom.
yeah. I mean, it was.
The thing that's real is me, and the fact that day in and day out for almost 6 years, I have proved to everybody in the world that I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even at commentary. Nobody can touch me. And yet, no matter how many times I prove it, I'm not on your lovely little collector cups. I'm not on the cover of the program. I'm barely promoted. I don't get to be in movies. I'm certainly not on any crappy show on the USA Network. I'm not on the poster of WrestleMania. I'm not in the signature that's produced at the start of the show. I'm not on Conan O'Brien, I'm not on Jimmy Fallon, but the fact of the matter is I should be, and trust me, this isn't sour grapes, but the fact that Dwayne is in the main event of WrestleMania next year and I'm not makes me sick.
What he called him his doofus son-in-law, his boneheaded daughter, like all this stuff, and I was like, oh my, like this out of touch old man. Yeah, the only way that you'll get out of your own way is if you die or something like that. It was something, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was like, oh my god, like it was for older fans like us. We were like, are they finally like getting edgier? Are they finally gonna fucking like make wrestling cool again?
Yeah, all of a sudden talking about like I'm a Paul Heyman guy and so and like
Cole Cabana. Cole Cabana.
What's his buddy?
Ironically, which is the guy when he walked out of the company.
Cole Cabana. He talked about
each other. That's a wholly different podcast altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got Colt in a lot of hot water that he couldn't afford, but they're okay. Well, they're not okay, but they're okay financially. That part worked out. But it makes you feel like Punk was reading a lot of Reddit posts, Craig, right? And kind of used everything he could.
Yeah.
But he also felt that way too. A great moment. One thing before I don't know if you guys got quick ones. I was gonna say I can't believe
that was on my list, but I know we're
seats
probably gonna have a
on
part
January
2. So
4th,
there was a couple things on my list that I'm like, I can't believe like nobody chose.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go. We'll talk about those in the next one.
Yeah,
There's so many. I mean, there's so many more.
Be good
I have
stuff.
Many
3
more to
on my
do.
list of like
Many
6 that I
more. A
had
lot of great
planned out,
moments.
6 or 7, and like there's 3 of them that are like one of them that maybe nobody would choose, but 2 for sure. I'm like, Jesus, like I can't believe nobody like picked them.
For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel. On social media, can you give us a follow on Insta at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook and X at Our Wrestling Podcast? For Joe, Jess, Craig, and the Butters, we are signing off. O.W.P, have a good one.